How are you this morning, Jamie?
I'm good. How are you? I
I'm okay.
Thank you for talking to me. I was a big fan of the original, and I really enjoyed this series. I probably shouldn't admit it. I watched it when it was originally on, but I'm rewatching it again. So I really liked it a lot. So from the beginning, or I guess I should say from the end of the original series, did you always think that there would be like another television series, or did you have to be convinced? I mean, I'm just kind of curious how that conversation, I guess, went.
I think we always made jokes about the spinoff, about and what the spinoff would be. My original vote was that I thought should be about Donnie and Art living together in a bachelor suite, like both their wives had left them and they were living together and they were solving crimes. But nobody seemed to go for that idea. So, yeah, but we always made jokes about what the spinoff could be, and ultimately, Boat Rocker came up with and Anna came up with this the concept for Echoes and brought me on to help develop it. And Anna and I worked together during the pandemic. And I didn't actually meet her in person until we were literally making the show. But that was that kind of process. And because Graham Manson and I had had so many conversations about what the future would look like for these characters, there was already kind of a little bit of a roadmap, and certainly there was a roadmap with Kira, and because there was a lot of discussions about her. So I think those conversations that I'd had with Graham kind of transposed into conversations with Anna, and kind of the two things kind of ended up fusing together because I think, Graham and I have always talked about wanting to see the show, wanting to see the characters, all the characters from the original show come back like 10 years later. And I think we'd all like to know where the hell they're at 10 years later. So that's a whole other thing. We're talking about Echoes right now, but it's
Yeah, yeah.
just
Yeah, that was kind of my
that's
question. I'd like to see that too.
that was the end of when Orphan Black wrapped. Those were the kinds of
Hmm.
conversations we were having. What does a spinoff look like? What are these characters doing 10 years from now? And then interestingly enough, Echoes is set 30 some odd years in the future. So
Do you worry at all, though, that it would, I guess now you probably don't, but did you at all worry that like it would kind of diminish, I guess, what the original was doing because it was so, I mean, it's so beloved, obviously. So were you worried at all about that? And also, I guess, worried about how fans would react too, just in general.
well, like you can't. I knew pretty much that there was no real way of making that show is special, and
Mhm.
there's no real way of making a copy of it. Like you can't really. It's hard to kind of like that bar is like really really high. So it was more interesting to me, and I think to Anna Fishko, to create a show that like shared some DNA but really was its own thing, and then was meant to kind of stand on its own and really not you know there's connections to Orphan Black, but ultimately it's its own show, it's its own feel. It's not trying to be the roller coaster thrill ride that like the original Orphan Black was. It kind of wants to be its own thing. And for better or for worse, that was the goal. The goal was to make a kind of a new vibe out of the show.
Now,
And
do
so
you,
whether people go, it's not Orphan Black. Well, nothing's going to be Orphan Black
yeah,
because Orphan Black was special.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it's its own thing, but it works. So you directed I think it said the first two episodes, and I think I wrote it down, the finale too.
I did.
So are there things that you did specifically to kind of, I guess, be similar in style and things to reference back to it on purpose? And are there things you did purposely to make it different too?
I think certainly from a cinematic point of view and a style point of view, like it's got a very different structure in the way the mystery is laid out. And that was kind of on purpose. It doesn't have that like we're following clues down the rabbit hole. It's got a kind of a mystery where you kind of put all your cards on the table and then you go, how did we get here? So the mystery is kind of certainly in the first season has a different approach. And I think that where Orphan Black had this kind of like rock and roll, edge of your seat, roller coaster, like thrill ride vibe. This has more of a kind of a polished, sort of cinematic, meditative approach to discovering the characters and the mystery. So yeah, I think it was trying to like just trying to, I think that's how it's always been on Orphan Black is like whatever people expect, let's do something different and let's not give people what they expect. It's always been the mantra. So I think that was the vibe here. And I think it's, you know, trying to find it, trying to have a new show find its own identity and its own feet.
Okay, I just wondered if there were any like I guess specific, I don't know, stylistic elements or whatever that you
I
were.
loved putting Easter eggs into the show.
Oh yeah, that
Tons of
I'm
like
sure.
as wherever I could, it was great. Well, like I think, well, maybe people know that there are certain actors and characters from the original series that are coming back. And that was a really fun challenge. Like it was really cool to go, what are these characters like now? What have they been up to? And for the actors to come up with the old versions of what those characters, those beloved characters that they created were. And so I think that was a real exciting part of the show. And whenever we could like dip back into Orphan Black lore, you know, I think those are the kinds of things I appreciate. And I certainly know the fans do as well.
Yeah, that part was a lot of fun. So I wanted to ask you, I was trying to think of a specific scene to ask you about. Talk about filming some of the scenes in the room with the pink tank and all the goo and all that, because that's something that stylistically was really, really cool. So talk a bit
Yeah.
about that.
Well, it's obviously a lot of design work that went into that, a lot of planning. As soon as you're going to have like a big vat of goo and you're going to put an actor in the vat, there's a lot of engineering and like suddenly FX is involved and stunts are involved and like it's a big thing, right? And there was a kind of a, on top of that, we had to face cast Kristen so that we could build this kind of mesh mold that she could peel away from her. And so she had to go to FX and get I think it was just a face torso that we did for her. But ultimately had to build this big, kind of armature biological casing that she's crawled out
Yeah.
of. And it's really fun to do that stuff. That wasn't stuff that we really got to do much on the original show. So there were kind of new, unique challenges with Echoes. And I am just trying to come up with something that doesn't look like anything else you've seen. So
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, what kind of challenges did you face? Because obviously, you don't so much have like the same person in the same scene, over and over again. So, what were some of the other things that stand out that were difficult?
well, one of the biggest things was casting because we're having to cast three women all to kind of somewhat believably be the same person at different ages. And that's always a challenge for any show that wants to see a younger version of the actor. They're going to do flashbacks and we're going to see the younger version of them. It happens a lot, but not very often do we get to see the older version as well. So there is this threefold. Now we've like made it that much trickier to cast. And I feel like that was something that took a lot of effort and a lot of time, and I think we did well. I think people will be impressed with all three of these women.
I definitely think it worked. So, let me ask you, and I don't know if you can tell me this anyway, but is there any, I mean, idea of is there going to be a season two? Has there been discussion? And if there is, are you wanting to be part of it? I guess would be the other thing. Are you good with it?
I absolutely want to be part of it. I'm all about expanding the Orphan Black universe and putting out doing the best shows we can and making it, live in a place where where original fans can enjoy it and new people can come to the show and like even if they haven't seen the old show they can still enjoy the new show and maybe get it kind of go wow I wonder what that other show's like and go check it out. So I am definitely on board. I think we don't know yet
Yeah.
whether there will be a season two, but fingers crossed and we'll be out again. hopefully.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like you have ideas even maybe for other, things in the universe down the road still.
I
Whether
have, I
it's
have, I
TV
have,
or other
I
audio
have,
series
I have
or
way too many ideas. And
well,
everyone's like, John, just let's see how Orphan Black echoes just first.
well, I very much enjoyed it. I hope to see more in the future, whether it's this or more whatever. So
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. It's always good to hear that that you feel good about the new show, and I'll obviously meet people that were enthusiastic about the original.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely was a fan. And like I said, I like this too. So all right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Have a good
Thanks,
rest of your
Jamie.
day.
Okay.
Bye
Ciao.
bye. Okay, bye bye.